Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pwnery's Week in Review, episode 27. Can you believe we've done this for half a year already? I don't even remember starting doing this, and yet here we are during the Christmas season. If you're wondering what this background music is, it's a track called Succulent, and it's quite good, and I would highly recommend you get it. Anyway, I usually get these bits from bassdrive.com. So anyway, we're going to have a slightly abbreviated show, I suspect, because most of the stories I have for you today are actually opinion-based. And the overall theme of this week's episode is your rights and when and how to exercise them. Because if you look at the current state of the country, it's, let's just say, in flux, right? Let's not call it chaos, even though you could. One could very easily call this chaos. But we got to look at this in a sense of, well, it's a cliche, isn't it? So it's when seconds count, the police are minutes away. And the reason that I'm using this theme today, and I'm sorry about me clearing my throat, I'm literally a walking sinus today, and I choked on a cough drop before I hit the button. But I was leaving work 2 nights ago, and the area that I work in is a block north of where my childhood friend, who I've known since we were 7, his father was robbed, shot, and killed a block from where I work. And he coincidentally works a block south of that location. And it's not the best neighborhood. There's been a large element of Middle Eastern immigrants that have moved into that area. I want to say that it was originally part of a refugee or like a asylum program, and they've carved out a pretty nice corner of this area of town, and made it thrive. It was an area that wasn't growing, and when they bring folks over like this, and they invest blood, sweat, tears, toil, and money into the area to rejuvenate it, you can't help but just to kind of nod your head and go, well, this is America like it's supposed to be. They might have come here under duress, but they came and they made the best of it. The problem is now this area, even with these folks, working hard and renovating the area and making it usable, they're just the next set of victims from those who exploit people in the area. And sure enough, there's a convenience store and a tire shop next door to the convenience store. It's a real small strip center. The guy who bought it, I think they said he was from like Syria, but he rebuilt the whole building, and it's really well done. And he subdivided it into 2 pieces. One was a convenience store, and the other one's for a tire shop. Anyways, I'm driving home from work. I cut through neighborhoods because all the main roads are gridlock at rush hour. So, like, this little habit that I got into ever since I was a kid is learning your way through the neighborhood. That way, you don't have to sit at lights for 2 hours. So what my commute home used to look like before I did that, it would take me an hour and a half to get home, and I'm only 14 miles from the house. Through the neighborhoods, 25 minutes. This isn't running stop signs or anything. This is just, there's nobody in front of me, so I can just meander through the neighborhood doing an average speed of about 25, and I still make it home in about 25 minutes if I don't have to stop at the grocery store. Anyway, I'm going through this neighborhood, and traffic is heavy for some reason in the neighborhood. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I came to realize that right above me, very loud, was a police helicopter and a news helicopter and Lifelight trying to find a place to land. And I thought, that's odd. Here? I look across the street, and sure enough, there's a dead body in the parking lot of the tire shop, and there's a blood trail coming out from the door of the convenience store. And I thought, well, it's business as usual. What was really strange was we beat the cops there. The helicopter was there. The lifeline was already there. The news was already there. The police were in the process of cordoning off an area, a block all the way around, and they were actively searching past that. And there's a school right across the street from this place, too. And there's people standing everywhere. Streets, sidewalk, medians, they're all looking at this body. And I thought, well, there goes the neighborhood. Actually, no, you know what? It's like Spaceballs. What's that coming out of her nose? Spaceballs? Oh shit, there goes the planet. That's what it felt like. Sorry, it's not my best impression, but it's early. So anyway, the theme of today's show will be your rights and your right to exercise those rights. We have 5 stories for you today, and they all sort of fall into that theme. And I know my audio's been a little quiet on the playbacks, so I've modified my input gain a little bit. So if any of you are out in the chat, as long as you can hear me fairly decent, just let me know so I know it's working. Anyway, so yeah, it's going to be kind of opinion heavy, but I think that most of us in the viewership here will agree pretty much what we think. So just, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show because it's going to be... I'm going to take you all over the country for this one. I found stories from all over the country, both coasts and everything in between, so it should be good. Let's start as usual. I do have one panelist now, but I had one earlier. He had to jump out for a second. So for now, it's just Scott and I. Tony will probably be here later. And for any of you out there listening, former Gun Channels member or just a viewer, if you'd like to join my server or join the Discord or the show, use the email at the sorry, I'm tongue-tied right now. Use the address in the description below and email me. And if you are a former Gun Channels member but you use a new name, just make sure that you let me know who you were so at least I can recognize you when you get here. I'll send you an invite code. It'll be a single use, but it'll be permanent, so that way, if I don't get to your email until the day after, or you don't get to the reply until a day or two after, you should still be able to join. So each code will be individual to the people who email me. I'm planning on making the server go public. I haven't decided when, but, every day we do the lobby for working stiffs, and it's usually the usual suspects, and there's a lot of downtime. I mean, we've all got things to do, so if you want to come and hang out, you're more than welcome to do so. You can even do it from work like most of us. The only thing we request is make sure your noise cancellation is on, and if it's very excessive noise, just make sure you mute yourself between, the times you talk or whatever, and, you're welcome to come join us. And if you are sort of a up-and-coming or budding or transitioning YouTuber who has found that your avenues of broadcast are becoming more difficult to achieve, or you're just ready to make some changes, maybe you don't like working with StreamYard or any other alternative, or maybe your bandwidth doesn't allow you to work with any alternative, hit me up. I have a tutorial series on how to broadcast like I'm doing right here today, and I'll even furnish you a channel here on the server, like you see where it says the early watch and the weekend review and stuff like that. I'll set you up a room for that too. And the idea is to create like a new registry of content creators here, so everyone can see all the different channels right there on the left of the screen that I'm looking at. And that way, people who watch your shows, my shows, or anyone else's, they'll say, wow, that's kind of like a hub. We should all go hang out there, or just, whatever. So, nuts and bolts aside, technicalities aside, themes aside, personals we can review. I know Scott's got a few things, I've got a few things, but I'll let you go first.
Well, pretty much going to do the same thing that I do every weekend.
No, no, no,
With
that's the end of the show.
one.
No, the ones before.
Oh, I finally got my Wolf T91 upper in. That came in on Wednesday. So now I actually have a gun I can shoot.
And it's
And
painted.
it's painted. It's got a really nice fucking trigger.
And it's matched to what lower?
A What Would Stoner Do OD green polymer AR lower
Mm-hmm.
with one of the KE Arms DMR triggers, which are fantastically nice. I highly recommend.
And what's sitting on top of said upper receiver?
The EOTech I got from PSA for dirt cheap.
Yeah. So basically, you've got the complete package now.
Yeah,
And the beauty is the co-witness, right?
yeah. Surprisingly, the EOTech 512 is like a perfect co-witness for the front sight, which from what I understood, the Wolf tended to have like a weird wonky front sight height. Supposedly it matches the M-Bus,
For the rear,
but
right, because it doesn't come with a rear
it's
sight.
here, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting full red dot anyway, so
But the original T91 sight, that was actually slightly taller, right?
shorter, I
Shorter,
believe.
okay. So yeah, you ended up getting a complete rifle put together.
Yep.
Awesome.
What for under $900 for a piston drive AR upper that weighs basically as much as your standard AR, weighs just under 7 pounds unloaded.
Yeah, it was a case of what one hand giveth, the other taketh away. So you might have added a little bit of weight on your upper receiver, but you gained a lot of weight loss with the KE Arms polymer lower.
Yeah, and I
And
mean
because
it
most
run.
of the receivers up top in the middle, like the balance shift didn't really change much either.
No, not really. It's a little front heavy, but it's a
Mhm.
piston system, so
I kind of prefer them that way, just because uh, barrel rise on your follow-up shot. So like having it want to naturally pull down anyway. I mean, how's that any different than porting your barrel?
yeah,
The effect, that is. I mean, just and I mean, if it turns out the same weight as a standard AR, then you're really not adding pounds. You're just kind of moving the balance point just slightly.
yeah. You're shifting where the weight is
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah, I usually with my ARs, I usually tuck them in real tight, so it can be as heavy as it wants to be up front because it's like 2/3 of the gun is tucked up under my face. You
Yeah.
know, like for instance, my Dookie pistol, it's the 7.5 inch, and it's got the SBPDW brace on it. Now, that one I have to kick the brace all the way out because if I push it all the way in, I'm like the aim point is right up against my eye. It's that short of a pistol. But, you know, the weight's sort of irrelevant for me. Now, if I sling that joker, it's like I got a boulder on the end of a rope. I mean, it's going to beat the hell out of me. So, it's not really a run and gun pistol, but it's okay. Speaking of, um, one of these days, and I think I'm gonna wait till I hit 1,000 subs, just because it's sort of arrogant. I feel like it's sort of arrogant for me to do so. I've done this YouTube thing for what, 3 years, maybe four now. I just really started getting more frequent with the updates probably in the last year and a half. But I wanted to do like a video called "So You Want to Be a YouTuber," especially with today's changes. And then I also wanted to do sort of like a fun video on my most liked and my most hated video. And my most hated video is very hated. Like it's just barely above 50%, but it gets a lot of views. And it was my other 7.5 inch AR pistol. I called it the Marauder, but it's just the name of the handguard that I think Magpul called it or whatever. And I always thought it looked kind of cool. And it was one of my first pistol builds ever. Most of the rifles or ARs I built were rifles before. This was my first real like dabble into pistol builds, and I mean by and large I thought it turned out okay. Like it's balanced a little front heavy. Um, It uses a CAC shockwave blade, which is a bit thin, and after about 200 rounds or so, that blade is kind of making your shoulder a bit sore. But I manage. Um, and I kept it budget minded, so I think it's an Anderson forged lower, and then it's got I want to say it was a PSA upper with a 7.5 inch FN barrel, and it's got like this forcing cone thing on the end of it, and it's got that Marauder handguard. So I don't have much rail space to work with because the Marauder has no rail, and so I'm dependent on, I think, what, 25 uh, 25 slots on the rail on the upper, and that's it. But I managed to get uh, what is it, a British Sporting Arms BSA uh, red dot, which is just tall enough to clear my brass catcher. I got like a little tab for the brass catcher to clip onto, and then there's only enough rail space after that for the mount for the flashlight. But yeah, it's the most hated video I've got. It's funny because I'm still getting comments on it to this day. And I got one, I think it was yesterday. Some guy was like, I certainly hope your tastes have improved in the last 3 years. That thing is hideous. And I'm like, of course my tastes have improved. I make my own breakfast now. Your mom can't cook. But I refrained from it. I was just like, well, if that's the first video he found my channel on and he said that, maybe he should go look at my KP9 build. Because I did not spare any expense on that. I went all out. And that's a heavy one too. That thing is heavy. Holy crap, that's heavy. But yeah, it's my most hated video. But it's okay. Like I'll do it just for fun. I'll be like, this is my most viewed video. This is my most hated video. This is the one that people keep asking me when I'm going to build a second version of this or chapter 2 for my reloading videos, which I want to. I just don't have the brass right now. What else? Well,
Yeah,
Tony's
yes.
back. Anything good happened to you this week?
Not particularly.
Nothing? You can tell us
My
about the
dog,
dog.
my dog got loose and attacked another dog. I'm waiting on the recriminations from that. Uh, I don't know if there's anything good that went on. That kind of overrode it. So
Yeah,
the weather's crappy.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
oh, I'm glad you said the weather thing. So, Houston broke a record yesterday. Uh, Warmest day in December ever. It was almost 85 degrees. Freaking December 10th, 85 degrees.
it was like 60 here, but it's freaking raining all day.
Yeah. Well, it's really cloudy and ugly today. It's down in the low 60s today, which I welcome. Actually, no, sorry, it's 58 now. It's getting cooler. Nice. Which means my oil change is
Raining,
going to suck later.
raining all day is why I didn't decide to head south today because it's too damn muddy out there.
Yeah.
Seen bunches of tornado warnings up last time I looked at the radar map down there, uh, just south of the boot hill,
Well,
but nothing right directly there. But that's enough to scare Jimmy away.
I got a I got a friend who lives on Kodiak Island, Alaska, and he and I went up there, shit, probably 10, 12 years ago now, something like that. And he loved it so much that he decided that he was going to stay. Now, most of you who know me, I'm very quick to say, you're an idiot. So, when he decided, exactly in that cadence too, um, he decided that he liked it and he was going to stay. And I thought, can't fault you for that. But the part that made him an idiot was we went straight to Anchorage, I think it was. My dog needs to shut up. Quiet. Anyway, we went to Anchorage and went straight to a Toyota dealer and he bought a Tundra right off the lot. 4-wheel drive. And I looked at him, I'm like, you are an idiot. And he says, why? He was like, it's a nice truck. And I said, yeah, but you paid 20 grand more than you needed to. He didn't realize it until we drove back to Houston, and then he drove it to a Toyota dealer there, And the salesman said, "You're an idiot." Because what he paid for that truck in Alaska, it was just a standard four-wheel drive. I think it was just an SR5. I don't even think it had like a fancy package name. But it was a four-wheel drive version, kind of basic. And he could have bought a TRD off-road version here for the same amount of money, which has all the chili peppers. The only thing it's missing is the Fox shocks. If you get the TRD Pro, I think you get the supercharger and the Fox shocks, which I told him not to get anyway, because if he was going to modify it, whatever they put on it at the factory would come off. So he was like, "Yeah, I'll probably just get, like a off-road version just for the four-wheel drive." Either way, he sent
Is
me
he
a picture.
still driving it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not questioning its reliability. Like I've been a harsh critic of Toyota for a long time, just because I live in the fourth largest city in the country. The Rockets play in a venue called the Toyota Center. Um, you can't kick a rock from your driveway without hitting a Camry. Like everybody drives Camrys or Corollas, and
Priuses.
yeah, well, not as much, but they're usually driven by invalids and morons in my town, where they do 9 miles an hour when the rest of the world have shit to do. So I'm pretty harsh critic, but they are the nuclear cockroach of cars, aren't they? They just keep going. Matter of fact, my neighbor, her daughter just bought her a new Corolla and asked her to retire the Corolla she had, which was 22 years old, and it still runs. Unfortunately, her husband died, and now she won't sell the car because it's the only thing she has left of him. Whatever. Um, anyway, I've sort of changed my tune. I've been more receptive to the idea of buying. Me personally, I want an FJ Cruiser. Still, I know they stopped selling them here in the States in 2014, but I still want one, even though they're grossly overpriced. Even today, I found a 2014. It had 36,000 miles. It was still at the dealership, so I mean, it wasn't like it was an individual seller. Like somebody bought it, probably traded it in. Still has a warranty if you buy it from Toyota. They'll still warranty it. And it was still $38,000. I'm like, kiss my ass.
Well, you walked in there and offered them 26.
Well, I got a buddy here in town who bought from an insurance auction. He bought a flood damaged one. So it's literally just a body, suspension, and an empty shell. Motor's no good, transmission's no good, axle's questionable. First day he got it, towed it home, took the engine and took the front clip off, and then pulled the engine and transmission and transfer case all in one piece and threw it in the scrap heap. He's like, "This is garbage. All of it's garbage." I'm like, "It's salvageable." He's like, "It's garbage." Got rid of it. Next photo, a week later, sends me a Cummins 4BT, fully rebuilt, like painted like new, fully rebuilt with a new turbo and everything, with, I think it was a T56 six-speed manual and an Atlas 2 transfer case. And he's like, "I'm going to have a diesel FJ Cruiser." I'm like, "You magnificent bastard." The way it should have always been. Now, it's only a 4-cylinder Cummins, but it's still a Cummins regardless. It's basically like the ones you see in Rams with 2 cylinders lopped off. Mechanically, they're about the same. Reliability-wise, they still claim you can get about 400,000 miles out of one, and his was freshly rebuilt. Like, it still had the service tag on it. So, I mean, he put some money up for it, but when he's done, that thing's going to be brilliant. That's like a legacy vehicle. You buy that, you drive it to the day you die. I'm jealous. I want one. But anyway,
Check.
he sent me, the guy in Alaska, sent me a photo from his front porch yesterday. And he's got an anemometer, measures wind speed. And it said 84 miles an hour. And I'm like, "Is that sustained or gusting?" He said, "They say gusting, but it's been spinning like that for 20 minutes. They had a polar cold front blow through last night. Literally blow through. And he was saying that he could see the lights at the Coast Guard station radio tower swaying. That's an aluminum gantry, sort of like you would see at an airport. It was swaying. I'm just like, Jesus. So he's like, yeah, it's going to be 9 degrees tonight. What do you got? And I'm like, 85. He's like, kiss my ass. So anyway, Personals week in review for me has been interesting. Yeah, interesting. Let's just call it interesting. Um, I can't divulge too many details about my personal life on this one because it's slightly incriminating. But
Mhm.
I'll just say that the sweetest fruit a human being can eat is the forbidden one. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, I have been banished from that. That sucks. The other thing is I managed to locate a 10 round magazine for my Savage 1907, which did arrive, and I have carried this gun 3 days this week at work. I really like it. It's cool. It's a little chunky and a little heavy, but the holster sits well on me at about 230, and I got a. It says 10 shots quick, but basically what I did is uh, chambered one, put 10 in, so I got an 11 shot Savage, and then I just used the decocker, so the striker's fine. So I got an 11 round 32 ACP, which I know most people are like, that's a weak defensive round. I'm like, okay, but do you want to stand in front of it? No? Okay. So that got done. After almost 3 weeks, Jimmy James's M44 carbine arrived, and I gave my FFL an extra day because I didn't know how busy he was. So it actually arrived on Monday, but I picked it up Tuesday afternoon. My Tuesday was hectic. That was the day I got to pick up the M44. That was the day that I picked up all the they're called ELISA test kits. They're for blood test in the medical industry. And the one specific one that this girl needed isn't available in the United States because this wasn't a prevalent condition in the United States until very recently. So like she's one of the unfortunate lucky day one people to have this crap. So I had a friend in Korea move heaven and earth and get them to me in 5 days, which is incredible. Anyway, I got those, took them to her on Tuesday, had dinner. Then I got banished. She got home, I got banished. So she had to like block me. That sucks. Anyway, that happened, and got to play with my new M44. Very cool. It's in very good shape. I won't rub it in people's faces what I paid for it, but I definitely got it for less than it's worth by a lot. So that's done.
You mean
Hmm?
you mean like your other Mosin?
So what Scott's referring to is I had a friend at the Antique Center of Houston, which is actually going out of business at the end of the month. So if you are somewhere in the Southeast Texas area and you're looking for antiques or novelties or something like that, including firearms, you might want to check them out because they'll be gone at the end of the month. It's 290 and 610 Northwest Corner. It's at a place that used to be called Northwest Mall. Anyway, yeah, guy over there called me and he was like, I have this Russian rifle. Would you be interested? And I said, maybe. What is it? And he says, I'm not really sure, but it has a scope on it. And I thought, oh, it's probably a sporter. So I drove over there, which is about 40 minutes away, walked in, and I'm standing in front of a 1944 Tula Arsenal production Nagant PU sniper. Correct scope, correct uncanted front sight. All the markings are in all the right places. And I asked him, said, "What do you want for it?" And he says, "I've got 700 in it, but I need to make something on it. I'll sell it to you for 800." Okay. He's like, "Just like that?" I'm like, "Yeah, here you go." So I got that one. Now the M44, I've seen them sell for, I think, reasonably anywhere between $500 to $800, right? Something like that, depending on condition. probably I got it for about half that, so I'm not complaining. I'm pretty happy.
Legit Mosin PU?
No, for the M44.
Oh, yeah.
PUs I've seen sell for anywhere between 1,200 to like 3,500, so
Yeah.
they're up there. The scope,
Yeah.
I think, really tops it off. Like the correct one. Which is what blew my mind, because this one still had the wax paper with the twine wrapped around the paper to keep it all in the correct place. Really neat. Oh, good morning. We have Patriot in the Dark, and we've got Play Nice. Awesome. So anyway, that got here. The Savage is now up and running, which is cool. All I need to boil and renovate and get them back to their owners' guns are finished. And I am about to take delivery of, I think it's called an 1873 Trapdoor Springfield. Tony will know. But it's a breech loader conversion. And from what I understand, it's worth about $3,500. And the guy who owns it didn't even pay 1/10 that. So he stepped on a landmine of lottery winnings, essentially. So he's having me grab that and do a once-over on it. And as payment, which I still can't believe, I think I'm going to finally get to replace my 1903 A3 sporting rifle. I built it because I only had parts, but he's got a original World War I trim A3. And he was like, yeah, it's all yours. Like, you're serious? And he's like, yeah. This thing is mint. It's still wrapped in paper. And he's like, I don't want it. So you're going to give me that? And he's like, yeah. I'll make you a bill of sale when you come kick it up. Okay. Thank you. Merry Christmas. So I probably will have my 03 A3 Sporter for sale soon, because I'm not going to keep... I don't need two of them. I'm not Tony 2 times. I don't need two of every gun. Anyway, that was my week in review. Oh, wait, actually I do have one more thing. It's kind of funny. I was looking for a rifle case that I keep in my closet, my bedroom closet. Couldn't find it. I know what it looks like. I know what size it is. It was exactly what I needed to go pick up the Nagant, the M44. Couldn't find it. Tore apart my whole closet. Couldn't find it. Tore apart half my bedroom. Couldn't find it. What I did find was something that I completely forgot that I built and owned and never shot. I found my 11.5-inch Midwest Industries AR pistol, but I built this out of parts. So like most of the parts came from Midwest. I put the Strike Industries oppressor. It's not the can part of the oppressor. It's the brake part. I forgot what it's called. But it's got that on it. The oppressor will screw onto it though. So I thought, that's cool. Maybe I'll get one. And I did this one. It's all black, but I did rail scales in black and OD, and it actually looks pretty good, or FDE rather. It looks pretty good. And then I put one of those primary arms. What is it? 2.5. I think it's a 2.5-inch prison scope. The one that Patrick likes so much. I bought several of those about a year ago, and I apparently topped this pistol off with that. And it's got an SBA4 brace, and then it was on a Spikes Tactical Pineapple Grenade color-filled lower. That's when I realized, oh yeah, I did build this, because when I was going through my stuff, I saw the pineapple, and I thought, well, that's where that went. I thought I built it and sold it to somebody, but it was sitting there staring at me like, hello. So I got that back, which is cool. Nothing like going through your stash and finding a gun that you completely forgot you built, owned, or still were in possession of, right? It's always cool. Let's see. Other than that, I know this is going to sound cryptic. I've become Mark Twain. And what I mean by that is because I had been banished and blocked, I had woken up a day or two after that had happened, and I was bombarded with text messages. And basically what it was is this person told me, I don't care that you've been banished. Okay. But I had to change your name on my phone. Okay. So now your name is so-and-so. And I thought, Okay. So it's sort of business as usual. I just have to be a little more careful with what I say, because, I mean, I'm trying not to overstep any boundaries. Either way, the rest of the week for me is I've been actively seeking, and I'm going to put this out there. Tony, if you can talk to your missus later too, I'd really appreciate it. I'm looking for two things right now. One, if any of you know anybody who works at the, what is it, ISC Customs Office in New York, could you please let them, or get their contact info and have them get a hold of me, because I've been waiting on something. Uh, it's treatment medication for, and it was supposed to be here 6 weeks ago, and it's been stuck in New York Customs for the last 9 days. Now, I have a friend who works for the New York City Port Authority, and I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, what the fuck?" And he goes, "Oh, well, two things." I'm like, "Yeah." And he says, "Three things, actually. Holidays, it's fine." And he said, "Medication, sometimes the drug dogs smell it, and then they hold it, or they reject it." And I said, "Wouldn't I have known that by now?" And he goes, "You're probably fine." "Okay, what's the third thing?" And he said, how did he describe this? He said it should take anywhere between, or he said no, he said it should have took 4 days at the most, even during the holidays. So, because he doesn't work at the ISC office, there's nothing he can do. But he did tell me how it works, which sucks. So that happened. What I'm looking for, other than that, is, it's going to require travel, I'm sure, because I'm exhausting all my options in my part of the state. I need to find somebody who is a specialist in parasitic infections. Parasitic infectious diseases. Now, I've exhausted most of Houston, bits of Galveston, and now I'm branching out to the Dallas-Fort Worth area because of Patrick, and a friend of mine in Austin, Texas. So I'm working leads there now, which is going to require me to take more time off of work to drive her several hours away. Whatever. Big picture, right? I know, Tony, your wife sort of works in the medical field, so, like, if you could just let her know I'm looking for something like that, if she knows somebody, just give me a name and I'll work the lead. But anybody
She's
listening
standing
also.
right here listening.
Oh, cool. Okay. So yeah, what is it? Parasitic infectious diseases specialists. And the first thing that's going to come up is I will email you an entire synopsis and history of this poor girl's last 4 years. I can send you countless MRI scans and blood work and everything like that. We've created a Dropbox so people can just be invited and look at it. Got videos of her in the emergency room with seizures and epilepsy because of her nerve damage. You name it. She's sort of self-medicated because the stuff she needs costs 60 grand a month here in the States, which is asinine. And what else was there? Oh, um, up until this point, the United States doesn't have the means or methods to test for the condition she has, because it's sort of new to this part of the country, new to the country in general. But because we've had this giant influx of, let's just call them what they are. We've had a giant influx of a multinational criminal invasion force across my border, and they're bringing it with them. So it's becoming a problem. The test kits are not available in the United States. So like I said before, I took the liberty of getting them shipped from Korea. So I have those too. If they need them, I got them. They're sealed, refrigerated, the whole 9 yards. They're good to go. Anyway, any of y'all know anybody like that? Let me know, because any information I get, I work every lead. And, I'm just trying to get this poor girl healed, so.
My missus suggested contact Barnes Hospital in St. Louis.
Strangely enough, I did that this morning. I found several doctors there, and I did reach out to them. I'm glad she said the same thing. Matter of fact, the other one I'm working on there is the John T. Milliken Department of Internal Medicine at, let's see, this says Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis. That was another one I had to do this morning.
Well, what you want to do is you want to look at the big medical areas.
That
So
my city's one of them.
New York, Boston, Houston, um, probably LA.
Yeah. Austin's becoming one as well, so I'm keeping an open mind, and I know I'm gonna have to do some travel. And the guy in Korea, this guy went out of his way for me. Like, this dude's gonna be the best man at my wedding for sure, because he
If
not
they
only
live there.
sent me the kits, he found me two doctors who speak perfect English, who said if you need anything, call me. The doctors, they were like, if your doctors need to talk to somebody, here's my number. They can call us at any time. We're 12 hours difference or 15 hours difference, but we'll get to you, which is cool. And then they told me, worst case scenario is bring her ass over here. And I'm like, for real? And they're like, bring her on a plane over here. We'll take care of it. I thought, wow, cool. So that's cool. Anyway, that's what I've been working on literally for the last 5 days, like day and night 5 days. It got a little more frantic this morning because I had a little free time, but yeah, it's shitty like having to do this. It's a lot of work, but I'm looking at the reward at the end, right? Okay, so enough of that. Oh yeah, and the other thing is I've got a friend who's a doctor at Duke University. I reached out to him because he comes from a long line of doctors, one of which is still here in town. So I'm working on that too. But yeah, it's medical quest for me. It's not for my own condition either. So go figure. Imagine what would happen if I had to do something for myself. Anyway, that's a lot of the week in review. I'm sorry about that. Good morning to Squib, Patriot in the Dark, DJ Play Nice. I do see all of you in the chat, and anybody else who sees this later in the playbacks. So there's that. And I'm sorry for boring you all to death about my medical mishaps, but I'll deal with my bullshit in my shoulder later because it's not killing me, so it's no big deal.
Just think though, me and Scott have heard this like 4 times already.
Yes, I know, and anybody else who wants to join the server and become part of the lobby for working stiffs will get to hear that every day from me as well. And probably all my trials and tribulations of chasing after a woman with a condition. So, it is what it
My
is.
granddaughter thought that was exceptionally funny.
What?
That me and Scott have heard that.
Oh, yeah, well. What are friends for, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our stories of the day. Like I said before, I brought you 5 stories. They're from all over the country, and they're going to be sort of opinion based. But the theme today is your rights and your rights to exercise those rights. So my first story will come out of the state of Washington, where, boop, this guy right here, who actually looks a lot like my friend Jeff, who lives in Fort Campbell, Kentucky? Tennessee, yeah. So he shot and killed a suspected burglar in his house. And he says he has every right to defend himself. And I don't disagree. Though the district attorney of the state does, if I'm not mistaken. And he said that the guy had a weapon. And he said he did it in self-defense. I'm sorry, but I come from a state that has castle doctrine. A man's home is his castle, and he has every right to defend it. You don't have to justify that. Like, I know in a court of law, you have to present that, but I mean, on an elemental level, there is an unwanted entity in your castle, and it wasn't invited there, and it's not going to leave there without a fight. So I've got no problem with this guy filling this dude in. But, you know, he lives in a blue state, and that blue state is probably out to get him.
If they weren't before, they are now.
Yeah. So, I mean, this here is just, I'm scrolling down on the story for you guys watching, just in case if you want to see the story for yourselves and read it off the screen or whatnot. But, you know, supposedly this happened at 4:30 in the morning. I mean, this is not standard visitation hours for your humble abode, is it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can fill these fuckers in, as far as I'm concerned. Go take them out. And I mean, I'm looking at the neighborhood and the photos, and it's like, I could see like some transient ruffian walking up and down streets like this, thinking that they'll get some stuff and run off into the woods, right? But, like the guy says, it goes back to your rights. I have the right to carry. I have the right to protect myself. I have the right to protect my property. And, he's saying the same thing, which is the theme of the show. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. Police don't stop crime. They just come and report it or clean up the mess. And, you can tell that this guy's seasoned in this concept. Because if you look here at the end of the story, it's pretty obvious. Protect yourself. That doesn't mean go looking for a fight. That just means be ready. So, in my opinion, which is probably shared by most of you, is pro-gun people look at the gun as a shield, where anti-gun people look at a gun like a sword. But a shield is an insurance policy, isn't it? You have it, and you only...
I hate to disagree here, but anti-gun look at the gun as a monster.
Right. But I mean, you see what I'm saying is pro-gun people see it as a defensive tool, whereas anti-gun people see it as an offensive tool. Used by monsters, like I guess you would say. Aggressors and people with power trips or whatever.
If they would accept the used by part of it, it wouldn't be a problem anymore.
Right. But I mean, it always falls back on perception versus reality, right? Now, my background, psychology, sociology. It's mainly to deal with like relationship therapy and women, but I did take a minor with criminal justice, so it's like it's all perception versus reality, no matter how you cut it. I look at it as a shield. You look at it as a sword. I'm defending my life, liberty, and my right to exist. My stuff. When cops look at you or antis look at you and go, was your stuff worth their life? The perfect response is I didn't value their life for my stuff. They valued their life worth my stuff. I'm just defending my stuff. You know what I mean? There's a meme for that too. It's like, he stole a candy bar. Did you have to shoot him? Oh, I saw him hold a dark object in the dark. I thought it was a gun, okay? Like, he made that choice that his life was worth that candy bar, not me. Now, it's an extreme, almost George Zimmerman style defense, but you see what I'm saying. It's like, you have the right to protect your stuff. That's all there is to it. Anyway.
See, in Illinois, it's written that you have the right to protect your stuff from felony.
Yeah.
So you really have to get the calculator out and figure out the level of felony. And it's like, it has to be worth X amount, 500 or 1,000 bucks, if I remember correctly. Protecting your car, yeah. Protecting 12-pack of beer in the refrigerator, no.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's levels of reason. If like someone broke into your house and all they took was your Beanie Baby collection, and they didn't like torch your house or kill your dog or something, you're probably going to stand him down and hold him there for, detain him if possible. But this is
into my house, you got to worry way less about my gun than you do my dog.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, though. It's like, we're doing this in a perfect vacuum scenario, too. I mean, you hear a bump in the night, you go out to investigate. That guy has the upper hand, in a way, because he's already ready to do something. You're still in the exploration and inquiry stage. Plus you're groggy, plus you're nervous, maybe scared, You can train hard to maintain a level of calm during a situation, but you're never going to shake away all the heebie-jeebies of the situation. I don't care how trained you are. It's going to sound wrong, but it's always exciting, isn't it? Not in a good way, not in a bad way. It's a level of stress and excitement. So You can train as much as you want for the scenario, but every scenario is still very, very short, brief encounters that last a few seconds, and then either somebody's dead or somebody's gone or took off or whatever. So it's like, it's hard to really put that I judged him because he grabbed my candy bar thing. Because you don't know. You don't know what he's carrying. You don't know what he's got on him. You don't know if that's a gun because it's dark. You know, you can hit him with the flashlight or whatever, but if you hit a perpetrator with the flashlight, they're gonna freeze. But a really good criminal is gonna pull out his gun and start shooting at the direction of the light, isn't he? Like he's not gonna
I want to
fuck around.
I want to say something that I've heard from a couple of people that I respect greatly.
Sure.
That's in any circumstance. If you've got a way to get out, get out.
Talking
Do
about duty
not
to retreat.
No, I'm not talking about duty. I'm talking about just doing it. If you can, you should, because that's the safest option.
In terms of avoiding conflict, yes. I don't know,
Because
man.
it still comes back to, is any of this stuff worth your own life?
Right, but you didn't make that determination. They did.
You are if you stay there and confront them.
True. But you don't know what they're there for either. Like, okay, so imagine the movie like Law Abiding Citizen, right? The guys broke into his house. They originally attempted to rob the place, but then they ended up raping and killing his wife, and then stabbing him, right? The situation spiraled out of control. You can't like wake up with your pistol with the light on and going, okay, this is just a robbery. You don't know that.
That's the whole idea.
I don't know. See,
You can
Texas
get out
castle
of it.
doctrine is kind of interesting. It says that a man's home is his castle and he has the right to protect his home, his vehicle, his place of business, and all points in between those. Meaning, if I'm walking out to my car to go to work in the morning and someone jumps me in the bushes, I can fill him in. If I'm getting out of my car to walk into my shop and someone jumps out of the bushes, I can fill him in. Like, I have the right to do that. Do I want to exercise that right? No. But it's like another insurance policy, isn't it? It's better to have that option and never need it than to need it and not be given it and then be labeled a criminal for doing it. It's your life.
in
You only got the
Illinois,
one.
the doctrine here states home and property.
Right.
So that covers your land, your car,
But see, we have
whatever.
places in between. Meaning, if I get carjacked on the way to work, I can fill him in. Now, I don't want to.
Illinois also says anywhere you're legally able to be with a gun, you can protect anybody.
Ah,
So
see, but
it's not just limited to you protecting yourself. If somebody else is in danger, you can do that game too.
see, but that's gonna end up boiling down into a Rittenhouse situation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be self-defense versus protecting others, vanguard, versus vigilantism. And that's what will be argued in court to the end of time. But I mean, you're right. The nomenclature of your law states you can do that. So it's going to draw the trial out, and eventually, with a sensible jury, it will rule in your favor. Absolutely.
I hope to God I'm not in that situation here ever.
Yeah, me too. Like, I've only had to fire at an individual in anger once in my life, and it's not. You know, it's funny. You know how they say that a lot of cops and security guards are people with a chip on their shoulder and like a superiority complex? They like to leer and rule over people. When I was forced to take a shot at somebody, I did not gain any pleasure out of it. I actually kind of felt remorse because I was like, I was forced into this and I didn't want to do it. You know, like,
I can tell you that if you're a normal human being, shooting somebody will make you sick.
maybe.
maybe not in the military aspect if you're, a couple hundred yards away where you're not actually looking at the person
I mean,
up close
I'm
and
not saying
personal.
that I couldn't cope with having to do it. I would just be more upset that I had to do it. You know what I mean? Like the day I did it, uh, okay, so what had ended up happening, and you've heard this story, I'm sure. Uh, my neighborhood was spared during Hurricane Harvey. Sorry, not my neighborhood. 5 streets in my neighborhood were spared, and somehow the lights were still on, which is very rare because usually if a butterfly farts in my area, my power goes out. So we had one of the worst storms in 10 years, 4 years ago. And I woke up, I looked outside, and it looked like a mess, but the lights were on. And I started watching the news, and I realized how devastated my town was, and just outside my neighborhood was. So me and a friend got his John boat and his tall truck, and we drove around doing high water rescues. We started on a Tuesday, I think it was, and I didn't get to go to sleep until Friday. And I didn't even realize how many days had gone by because we just kept going back and forth, street by street. We just know that, oh, it's dark, we got to turn the lights on. Like nobody thought about what day it was. And then one day, all of a sudden, on Friday, uh, we're going pretty much up and down the neighborhood west of me. And somebody took a shot at us. And in our boat, it was me with my Marlin because I thought that if I had a lever action rifle, it would be a little more socially palatable to just the common person out there instead of my black rifle or whatever. So
Well,
I took
yeah,
the
it's
Marlin.
Texas, man. Everybody's got a Winchester and a Colt.
Well, I took the Marlin just for that visual, I guess, right? But what the guy in the boat with me didn't realize is it was the 4570. It wasn't my 3030. So I had that on me, and I had a National Guardsman with me on the boat. I had a Fort Bend County Sheriff's officer with me on the boat, and then an EMT and a couple of people we had already picked up. And when the bullet whizzed right by us, the cop and I both stood up and shot in the direction of the noise. Like, it wasn't even, there was no hesitation. Just boom, stood up, 3 rounds out of the gun. And the guardsman fell out of the boat. Anyway, I slept like a dead body that night. It never gave me a second thought. I saw the guy we shot at too. Like we saw him running for his life after that, and I just kind of felt bad that I had to do it. And the cop didn't say nothing. Like he didn't say nothing. We just kind of just looked at each other like, well, he's gone, and then we just put our stuff away and kept going. Like we couldn't chase him. We had people on the boat. But anyway, like I said, I was able to sleep just fine. I didn't dwell on that because it was me or them. What if that bullet that was by actually clipped me in the temple? I wouldn't be here right now. So I don't dwell on that. It sucks though. It does suck. But you do have the right to defend yourself too. It is what it is. Anyway, next story. I'm going to take you clear across the country, and we're going to the silly city of brotherly love in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where there was a brick oven pizza place that was being robbed, and a 14-year-old employee shot the robber in the face. Sorry, I like saying it like that. 14-year-old Philadelphia pizza shop employee shoots armed robber in the face. Hell yeah. And this story starts off with the statistics of the year. 521 dead uh, in Chicago 3 weeks ago, right? With 3 weeks to go. But Philadelphia is quickly catching up to them. So it's one of those stories that you don't hear very often because everyone's focusing on Chicago, right? It's like there's a website called heyjackass.com, and it will give you all the statistics of Chicago values, which is all the homicides, all the shootings, all the shot in the junk, shot in the butt, police on, blue on whatever crime, blue on blue crime, whatever, all of it, right? It's got all of it. But yeah, I mean, Philadelphia's got its plethora of issues too. Now, here's the thing that I'm really curious about. Okay, so the 14-year-old was actually the son of the owner. because my initial impression is why is a 14-year-old carrying a handgun at work? What's he doing
I
with
didn't
that?
want to mention that, but I was thinking it.
Yeah, I think everybody was. But then I realized what was going on. So this kid saw that another employee was getting choked on by the robber, and he's apparently the son of the owner, and there is a handgun under the counter. So, yeah, pulled out the gun, fired one round, shot him in the face. Sorry, I just had to
But
say that. So,
I would like to sit down with this kid for a bit and just learn his training.
well, he said he saw one of the employees getting choked. So he just reached under the counter, grabbed the gun, shot the guy in the face.
well, that would be covered under defense of others.
Sure. Now, I don't know how it works in Pennsylvania, but I mean, they have cameras. So it's not like he didn't he didn't Ahmaud Arbery this guy. You know what I mean? He didn't go chasing him down with pickup trucks. It was in his own business. And one of his own employees were getting attacked. So clearly in the defense or aid of others, without a doubt. The best part is the blood trail that they followed and the cash that he was dropping as he was running away with a hole in his face. He didn't die. He's in critical condition. They arrested him. And I love the way that they said that we're sure that the pizza owner and his heroic son. Yeah, I like that. So yeah,
Well,
once
I
again,
gathered
self-defense,
that
right?
at first I thought he did a clean drop on the dude right there.
He must have.
I'm like, how do you get a kid to be that calm?
I don't think that's calm, honestly. I don't think that is a I don't think that was his thought or reaction. Like, okay, so imagine this. Imagine if there was no gun, and this kid is, I don't know, let's just say he's coming out of the kitchen, going towards the register. And he sees somebody reaching across the counter, choking the guy at the register, or girl, and then trying to get the money out of the drawer. What if, okay, when they found Gabrielle Petito's body out in Wyoming, the forensic pathologist, that performed the autopsy, they had found that there was a bone in the neck
The
that,
hyoid?
I think that's what it's called, yeah, that was broken, which can only be broken by severe blunt force or squeezing trauma that breaks it. And when you break it, they will suffocate and they'll die. So imagine this kid coming out of like the pizza kitchen, going towards the register, and he sees somebody choking somebody in front of him, maybe knowing that that could happen to that person, and he sees the gun under the counter as he's approaching it and just grabs it and tries to stop what's happening. See, you always hear this in court cases. You never hear somebody go, "So I pulled out the gun and shot the guy." They don't say that, right? Instead, they're groomed by their attorney to say, "There was an assault happening right in front of me, so I reached for the weapon to stop the attack." And that's what it is. That's what it boils down to. We lost Tony. I guess his baby was crying again. Anyway. Yeah, I got no problem with this. There should be no charges. Like, none. This is just defending your business, your life, your liberty, and the life of somebody else. Because if that person died in that business, the person that was being choked, and the robber got away, then there's a whole different ball of worms to deal with. Because now the robber's gone, police can't find him, you have a dead body in your shop, and the family of that person is probably going to sue your business. Stands to reason. Especially since apparently we're still a very sue-happy society. And wrongful death. I mean, it is wrongful death, let's be honest. Anyway, let's move right along. We'll go on to... I'm going to take you back across the country, and we're going back to the great state of sunny California. Which, you can't deny it, there are parts of that state that are beautiful. The weather is incredible. Unfortunately, those two things aren't worth my gun rights or their government overreach. I'm sorry. It's not worth it. Nice weather isn't worth everything that they take from you for it. No, no. But anyway, what I wrote as a caption for this is LA's affluent want carry permits now? Question mark. Oh, I see. You see, when all you rich people out there in your gated communities feel unsafe, then you want to make changes to the law. Only then, when it affects your bottom line, do you want the average person to be able to carry, right? Or no, you just want yours. What's good enough for me, but not for thee, right? Is that what's going on? Because let's just kind of review what's going on in the great state of California, or at least San Francisco. They have a misdemeanor for smash and grabs of anything below $950. And it's going nuclear. They are organized. It's almost like a Soros-backed protest. 80 people, this happened a while back, but 80 people in dozens of cars rushed in front of, what was it, it wasn't Prada, but it was like one. A boutique. Went in, smashed and grabbed like an army, hopped in the cars and took off like Fast and Furious style. Right? That's organized crime. It's very organized crime. And they did it all as quickly as possible in preparation for Black Friday sales. So I think it stands to reason that San Francisco's finest and the feds were probably scanning Facebook Marketplace, maybe the local Craigslists, stuff like that, because people were literally fencing off their stolen goods at that point, which puts cash in their pocket so that they can go back to the store and legitimately buy the thing that they really wanted. I mean, think like a criminal, right? Well, this is happening in Beverly Hills and Bel Air too. And these people, oh, they're upset. They're mad. They were like, crime in my gated community? That's intolerable. I want a gun. All of a sudden, after taking the guns away from everybody else, now they want a gun. I'm sorry. What makes your shit not stink worse than the next person's? And now all of a sudden, now that it's reached your doorstep, now you've become one of us? I mean, we're glad to have you, but where the hell were you 10 years ago? Where the hell were you 50 years ago? Some of you weren't born, but you get the idea. It really sucks that we have to bolster our numbers through tragedy. And I think it's kind of shitty? Shitty critical? Hypocritical? I don't know. All of a sudden, these guys want their gun rights. Then they get to realize, what do you mean I have to do a background check for ammo? What do you mean I have to wait 10 days before I could pick my pistol up? I gave you the money. I filled out your stupid form. These people are in my neighborhood right now. What am I supposed to do while I'm waiting? Right? They're going to finally start... They're going to start asking those questions. And you're going to see that meme of the guy standing on the gallows going, first time? Of course they are. What do you think? Scott? Should we let them have their gun rights? Of course we should, but... I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, okay. So let's just play a little game, okay? I'm going to use an AOC term here. Let's play a lightning round game. Crime has finally reached their doorstep. People who have been anti-gun for the longest time now all of a sudden want guns. So you let them have them because it's their constitutional right. We turn the other cheek. We look the other way and we say, Finally, you get it. Welcome. Now you're one of us. Right? And then the
No.
crime in their neighborhood goes away. And then they take that gun that they bought and they put it in a desk drawer or a nightstand or a safe. Or maybe even they say, well, I don't need this anymore. I'm getting it out of here because I don't want it in my house. And they turn around and they sell it back to the shop for a loss, but they got rid of it because it helps them sleep better at night knowing they don't have a weapon of mass destruction in their possession. There are people like that. As soon as their situation improves, I would imagine that there's a good percentage of those people who go right back to saying, we don't need guns anymore. And that's tragic because now that you finally have a commonality with somebody that you didn't before, you want to keep them there because now they're like, you've always had this option. Now you understand the importance of it. Don't renege on that. Don't go back to, we don't need these things. You did 2 weeks ago. You did a year ago. You did when some dude was following your 14-year-old daughter walking home from school. All of a sudden, Dad comes out and he's got a friggin' loaded Glock 19 ready to go. Like, you needed it then. How come you don't need it now? Oh, because they don't come through my neighborhood anymore. They'll come back. That's how criminals work. They're like pack animals, and they just follow the smell. Yeah, it's dangerous now. Won't always be. We'll be back. That's how it works. I'm glad you guys got your rights back, or you're demanding them, or demanding carry permits or whatever. Just remember why you asked for them, and value the fact that you can have them, and keep them, and maintain them. And don't let them take them away from you again, because that's stupid. Speaking of having stuff taken away from you, so this is another opinion story. I'm just prefacing it that now. Everything is, actually. But this sort of piggybacks off of the Supreme Court cases that are going on right now. And the opinion is that people who had been prosecuted under unconstitutional gun control laws should be entitled to restitution. Now, I agree with this. I know we're a sue-happy country, and I know that there are a bunch of petty people who are like, they wouldn't let me carry this in a Myers grocery store. I demand compensation. No, you don't. Shut up. Sit your ass down. I'm talking about like the woman who had been attacked in the past, and she had driven through, was it New Jersey? And she was in possession of a firearm, and then she was thrown in jail. And then I think after her whole legal debacle, they let her out. They were like, you don't even live here, stuff like that, right? She should absolutely be given restitution, especially if she had no intent on stopping through your state. Do you remember when Rick, most of you guys know who I'm talking about, Rick's Life as I See It, he used to live in the, I can't say great state, but he used to live in the state of Delaware because, Captain Sundown's from there. And he was very concerned when he moved to Indiana on choosing a route that skipped New York State because he didn't want the heat just in case. Because, imagine a guy's got his entire life packed into a truck and a trailer. He's driving across the state of New York, and he's got his guns. And he gets pulled over by a state trooper with a chip on his shoulder and a giant bug up his ass. And he harasses Rick, who's got medical conditions, limited mobility, high blood pressure, bad attitude if he's getting picked on, right? Of course he just demanded restitution. Absolutely. Or if the rules were changed overnight, aka bump stock ban, and you're told to destroy your item that you paid for that was perfectly legal the day before, you have to shred that. We're not giving you anything for your loss. That's kind of bullshit, isn't it? What if the state of California changes their roster and they start crossing guns off the list that used to be on the list, and now you're a felon because you can't have that. How about the Fostech Origin shotgun? How about the Mossberg Shockwave? How about, I don't know, Keltec P50? Stuff like that, right? What if they take that away from you? What if they say, oh, you can't have that anymore because we said so. Get rid of it or you're going to jail. We'll put a felony on your record and you'll never buy anything again. You won't even be able to vote anymore. You could be an illegal alien in the city of New York and vote. Did you know that? 2 days ago, the city of New York passed an ordinance, or they're pushing through an ordinance, that allow non-citizens to vote in local elections in the city of New York. 800,000 people have just been given the right to vote and make decisions on actual citizens of the city of New York. I think those people are probably entitled to restitution, especially those who came here the right way and earned their citizenship and their right to vote. They should be the ones that are the maddest of all, but they're not. That's the problem. They're split too. Every community where there's a wrong is a split community, if you think about it. Because half of them are just like, I ain't got time for that, I don't care. But then there's the other half who are like, that's bullshit, it took me 10 years to get this. You know, they keep talking about these, what do you want to call it? Migrant people that are coming, and how they're looking for ways to allow them to stay here. And we used to talk about this years ago. And you can agree or disagree, it's fine. I'm not going to be offended or hurt either way, but I had this idea. Say we let everybody in these migrant caravans stay. The ones that don't have criminal records, that is. Aside from the fact that they broke the national trust by crossing the border illegally. Oh, you can trust us now. We just had to break your most basic law just to get here, but everything else, we're cool, right? You can trust us. Wink. Well, let's just say, okay, the good ones, the good people, the real downtrodden ones that just couldn't wait. Let's say, okay, you can come. Fine, whatever. We'll give you an ID, we'll give you a social security number, but you're not allowed to vote for 10 years. You are not allowed to make the decisions of this country for 10 years.
No, they're not allowed to vote, period.
Well, no, because think about it like this, okay? There are people who say it took them 10 years to get their citizenship. Maybe longer, maybe shorter, whatever. Like, think of Blue Phoenix, for instance. He was here on student visas and stuff. They never gave him citizenship here, right? I'm sure he probably tried to apply for it, but then he realized he didn't have the time to do it. So, those people will go through the system and eventually become legitimate citizens, like Enes Kanter Freedom is his new name, NBA player, Turkish, hates LeBron James, fuck you LeBron, not a China appeaser. Changed his name legally. His real name is Enes Kanter. He added the last name Freedom. Now he is Entis K. Freedom by the eyes of the law and a United States citizen. He did it the right way. Those people take 10 years to get their citizenship. Now he can vote. He couldn't before. Okay? That's why I'm saying if you come here illegally and we still let you in anyway, you can't vote for 10 years. Because the guys who did it the right way couldn't vote for 10 years. It's only fair. Anyway, I don't know how I tangented it off on that, but if your rights are trampled on by unconstitutional laws, you should be entitled to compensation. I have no problem with that. I don't think any one of y'all do. Like, imagine this, right? This was a crazy thing that I did back in the day. One of my unicorn guns is a Smith & Wesson 327 Night Guard. It's not a performance center gun. This was just kind of a Cadillac version of a gun. Had scandium frame, had 2.5-inch barrel. It was an end frame, big frame revolver, but it held 8 rounds of .357 Magnum. Loved it. lightweight, easy to shoot. Wasn't a fan of the Packmeyer boot grip. I put on a Smith & Wesson X-frame Hogue Tamer grip. I can shoot that gun all day long now. It's got an XS big dot night sight and a gutter rear sight non-adjustable. It is naturally zeroed for 10 yards, which is reasonable self-defense distance, 30 feet, right? You would point and it would hit exactly where you pointed that dot. I used to have a big desire to carry it. Big. Like, I love that gun. And it just coincidentally fits in the same holster my 454 Casull does, because it's the same physical dimensions. But then I thought, what if I was ever put into a situation where I had to defend my life and shoot that gun? And it was collected as evidence, and I may have won my case, but you've heard stories about this before. We lost your gun. We took it in as evidence, we lost your gun. Or we took it in as evidence, but you can't have it back because it was used in a killing. Or something like that. Just some stipulation, right? Well, when that gun was new, back in the... I want to say it was back in like the late 90s to early 2000s. I think they stopped making them in 03 or 05, something like that. They became very collectible. Because they made multiple models. Different calibers, different chamberings, different sizes. They made a couple in L frame, as far as I'm aware. And then a lot of them in N frame. When those were new, they were like $6.99, $5.99 or $6.99. By the time I discovered what it was, I watched the remake of From Paris with Love. Saw the gun, had to have it. Took me 3 years to find one. Cost me $1,500 to get one. Looked up that same model today, because I mean I bought that thing years ago. I think the cheapest I found one for was $3,500. I have a unicorn. I have a collectible. I love it. I'll never carry it again as a daily carry, because if I ever have to use it and it's taken from me and not returned, I think I would be entitled to restitution, because now technically it's becoming irreplaceable. Limited production, limited everything, and grossly more than I paid for it. The closest thing you can get to a gun like that today is a TRR8, which has a 4-inch barrel, if I'm not mistaken. It's longer. It's got rails too, though, which is cool. It is on my to-do list. Oh yes, it is. I need the revolver that Maggie carried in The Walking Dead. Oh yes. I have the Ladysmith that Andrea carried in The Walking Dead. The 3913. Yeah. It's Ladysmith 3913. I like that gun. It's got this light primer gray colored plastic grip, and it's a bead blasted stainless finish. And some dumbass will look at you and go, "It says Ladysmith on the side." You want to stand in front of it? No. Shut the fuck up then. Anyway. Sorry, I don't know why I went into that. Anyway. Man, I'm really popping off the vulgarities. I apologize. We had a viewer weeks back. He was young. I think he was like 18 from, I think it was Miami. And he loved the show, but he didn't like the vulgarities. And I'm making an effort. I'm trying, really. I mean, I get it. I'm
So
not.
what you that I should have bought that one I found locally for $1,200.
Yes. Absolutely. You'd never regret it. I promise. You'll love it.
Oh, it had a fantastic trigger. I played with it.
You know, it's funny. I have performance center Smiths, like my 44 Magnum competitor, for instance. It has a wonderful trigger. The Night Guards, they have a good trigger, but it's not nearly as smooth as the performance center one. But it is much better than like my L frame 357 was, for sure.
This must have had work done to the trigger then.
It's possible. You can send them in. I inquired that. It was just a little heavier than my 44 for trigger pull, but it was crisp. I mean, I don't have any complaints. I'm happy with it. My My Alaskan, on the other hand, that's not a performance gun. It's a bear gun. And what's really weird about that trigger is it's unbelievably smooth. It has like a camming feeling. Like you can feel the trigger as you pull it. It almost feels like it's on an eccentric. There's resistance, and then it rolls over to a certain point, and it's nice and easy. It's like click, and off it goes. Of course, there's a giant fireball and a huge bang, 454, but really, really good trigger. Matter of fact, one of the alternatives that were suggested to me, because I love my Night Guard, is go buy the Ruger Red Hawk 8-shot 357. And I probably will, because it's proportionally the same size. It's an Alaskan frame in 357, 8-shot. So it's just like my Night Guard, but all steel. Carpenter steel. Very heavy. Love it. Just lift more. Don't be a bitch.
What you're saying is you'll never break it.
I'll never break it. I've taken my Alaskan apart so many times now just to polish it and put it back together. Like, I know every single part in that gun. I could be Daisy Duke during the, what was it, Miss Hazard County contest where she was blindfolded, put it in a dark room, and took apart a 4-barrel carburetor and put it all back together, and then walked out with it in one piece. I could do that with the Alaskan. I will not wear Daisy Dukes. I will not wear a cutoff t-shirt. Anyway, that's a joke. Okay, so the last story of the day. This comes from Squibs. Well, Squib, are you still in Michigan and just on a long road trip, or did you actually move? That's a question that was raised the other day, and I'm genuinely curious. I know I saw you with Jimmy, so I know you're out west. I don't know if you moved there yet or not, but if you did, congratulations. Either way, the last story of the day I've got for you comes out of the state of Michigan. And I titled this, "Let's Tell the Criminals Where the Buffet Is." Because apparently the Detroit Free Press declares that to be safe, we have to ban guns in schools, churches, and daycares. I think they actually named a couple other places too. Now here's the deal. Most schools don't have guns in them already. Most churches don't have guns in them already. Most daycares don't have guns in them already. So why are you telegraphing the fact that those three institutions are completely vulnerable and disarmed? Why would you do that? What vile political swamp creature thought it would be a good idea to declare we're banning guns from these places? You are literally telling the wolves where the buffet of sheep are. Like, if this is opinion, I'm sure you all agree. If you disagree, feel free to comment. It's just, I never understood the concept of announcing where the vulnerable will be. Because when you hear about mass shootings, where do they typically happen? Well, churches, schools, daycares, nightclubs sometimes, maybe post offices, sometimes your place of business because the employee handbook says if we catch you with a gun, we'll fire you. Stuff like that, right? Why would you telegraph this? Instead, you should put signs that say, "Armed guards and teachers on premises. Enter at your own peril." You don't want criminals to just walk into a place with, swinging dick like, I ain't got to worry about nothing because ain't nobody shooting back. You don't want that. The best deterrent is the unknown. The best deterrent is walking past a sign going, "You're doing this at your own peril. You value your life right at this point." Now, the reason I brought this up sort of has to do with what happened in Oxford. And we might have touched on this a little bit. I'm pretty sure we have. The thing is, these people are defenseless, right? And you're trying to depend on the safety and security how do I describe this? I graduated high school in 1997. That year, they were building a new high school every other year for probably the next 10 years because my county was the fastest growing in the country at the time. They were putting together high schools quick, and then middle schools followed behind it, and then a couple elementary schools would be sprinkled in. I went to a different school for my freshman and sophomore year. They built the new one. I moved to the new one my junior and senior year. My graduating class was 466 people, something like that. Pretty good sized graduating class. Every class before it was 1.5 to 3 times larger than mine, meaning the graduating class of the freshman year, the year I graduated, was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 700 to 900 because the neighborhood was still growing and they still didn't finish the other school to split the groups apart to keep it below a certain number. Now, let's just use a conservative number here. Mine was 466, so let's just say 450. Let's say every class is 450. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Okay? Now, this is obviously in a Texas education system where high school is 4 years. I know that there are some schools where your freshman year is actually still in middle school. So you only do sophomore, junior, senior in high school. But just for the sake of this exercise, that means you have 1,800 kids in a 4-year high school. Plus you have teachers. Let's say 400 teachers. That's probably too many. Let's say 250 teachers. I think that's more realistic. So we have 2,050 souls in the building. Plus administrators, let's say 50. Now you have 2,100. Plus custodial staff, maintenance people, things like that. So let's just say 2,300 total. Support network, logistics, food, cleaning, everything. Okay, IT, the whole 9 yards. Let's say 2,300 people. And you're expected to be able to defend and protect the lives of 2,300 people with one resource officer, with one pistol, with maybe 3 magazines. Now, I'm sorry. Most schools in my area are the size of shopping malls. The resource officer is usually buried in the middle of the building or towards the back of the building. His response time during a shooting with people maybe stampeding out of the way if they don't do the lockdown thing is going to be greatly hindered. Plus he has to be able to identify a target through a crowd if they're stampeding, right? He's got everything working against him. I wrote a bill proposal to my governor, Greg Abbott, twice. I've only sent it once, and I've refined it since. And I also copied it and sent it to, at the time, President Donald Trump. I'm probably going to do it again. I called it the Good Shepherd Act. And what it meant is, obviously, those who protect your children are the shepherds and your children are the sheep. And they're in this large building with a lot of people, and one cop with one gun is not going to save them. Oxford taught us very, very quickly that ain't enough. Think how many people he killed, wounded, hurt, even posed as a police officer, trying to get people to unlock doors, okay? One cop ain't enough. It took him, what was it, 5 or 15 minutes to get there or whatever? By then, there were already people dead and wounded, right? Nobody could stop them. So the Good Shepherd Act is something I've been working on. All of you out there, if you think it's a good idea and you want to add things to help me make this more ironclad, email me. I will add it. I will credit you for it. But essentially what it is I decided that we should probably start a program where we take off-duty police officers or retired military personnel who are fluent in firearms usage to take the time to teach and hold training courses for the department heads. I don't know if you guys can hear my dogs barking, but it's every goddamn day every this time. Anyway, to teach volunteer, teachers or just the department heads, proficiency in the use of firearms, target acquisition, stuff like that. And then maybe even bring over like your local volunteer fire department to teach basic triage. And then the way my school was set up is there was one main hallway that went from east to west, and then from that main spine, it was like a rib cage of individual hallways that branched off in either direction, all the way from front to back. And down, and it was 2 stories, so it was that one on top of the other, okay? So the plan was, the way that the school was laid out, was the department head would be in one room in each hallway, either at the front, sometimes in the middle, sometimes at the back stairwell. The back stairwells were not always connected to each other, but there was always a back stairwell because of fire exits. Point is, the plan that I had proposed was you take these retired military, retired police officers, or off-duty, or even actives, that are willing to come and teach teachers, department heads, administrators, whoever wants to learn, basic firearms, basic target acquisition, basic identifying, seek and destroy, whatever you want to call it, and also the paramedics to teach triage. And you put a triage kit in at least one room or in the hallway of every hall, sort of like how they have the handheld fire extinguishers. You just break the glass and off you go. Something like that. And at least the department head of every hallway would be armed. Now, if the department head didn't want to carry the gun, anybody else in that aisle or row could volunteer to take that responsibility. It's fine. It doesn't have to be the department head. It's just, I tried to keep it simple because some department heads will be anti-gun, obviously, right? But see, if you do that, now you've gone from one resource officer to one resource officer and every department head who has a responsibility of a network of other teachers under them, which acts as a force multiplier. So you have an active shooter in one hallway, that one teacher is already there. The one in the hallway on either side could be there very quickly. Then you institute your lockdown procedure, and the only people that should be in the hallway is the shooter and the teachers or the shepherds, you know, in this instance. That's the way I look at it. And the thing is it's just an insurance policy. You're just teaching them, if the need ever arises, this is what you can do to limit the damage, the casualties, stop the crime, stop the act, right? You're not forcing them to do it. You're just giving them the know-how how to deal with it and hope that they never have to. And obviously, when you do implement that system, you put some signs out in front of the building or at the front door or on the marquee that says, "This school is protected by the Good Shepherd Act of 2022. Teachers are armed and trained to handle whatever," right? I think there is more than 200 schools in the state of Texas that already let teachers carry. There has not been a single school shooting in any of those schools, ever, on record. Not one. That's how you stop it. That's how you always stop it. That's what the Second Amendment was made for, to protect people. And I find it really funny that the one entity that the Second Amendment was created to rein in is the one that's constantly trying to strip you of it. What gives them the right? They don't have it. It's not for them. It's for us. They're supposed to be working for us. They're supposed to be representatives of us. And they're not representing us, are they? Anyway, that's all I've got for you this week in terms of stories. And since Scott already sort of divulged what he's doing the rest of the week, and probably finding ammo, probably getting to go shoot his new toy today, and I can't because its winds are gusting at 40, so the outdoor is going to be pretty crappy. I'll be looking up doctors all weekend, most likely. Not for me. You already heard the beginning. So anyway, if you did join the show late and you didn't see the intro, or you weren't here for the intro while we were live and you didn't get to see it during the playback just yet, Pwnery is looking for infectious disease specialists, parasitic infectious disease specialists specifically. I don't care what city they're from, as long as they're willing to listen. So if you know them, or you are one, or you're related to one, please email me at the link in the description below. I am desperately looking for these. I need an army of doctors, because I know that if I recruit 1,000, I'll be lucky to get 10. But I need it. So send it to me. I will follow every lead and thank you for it. And if they end up being the solution to, well, my girl's problem, then you'll get an invitation to my wedding someday. So anyway, I'm going to start playing this. I know it's a little early, 20 minutes early to be exact, but I kind of knew that this show was going to be a bit short just because of its opinion-based stuff. Thank you all for taking the time to watch. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, maybe check out my other playlists and see if my other interests would be of interest to you. That cadence should sound very familiar to you if you watch my penny arcades. Anyway, guys, it's pretty much all I got for you today. The rest of my weekend is Doctor Search. I do have a new episode of Kicking It Old School coming out tomorrow. And we're probably going to discuss next week the Christmas break, because I could sure use it. So we will probably end 2 seasons, one of the Penny Arcade and the other one of the Week in Review. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Later.